Welcome to Integrative Medicine with Dr. Leland Stillman, the podcast where we explore the best of East and West, old and new, conventional and unconventional, in search of answers to medicine's toughest cases and most difficult problems. This podcast is for informational purposes only. Diagnostics and therapeutics discussed on this podcast may or may not be right for you. So talk to a qualified practitioner before taking action based on what you learn here. If you'd like to become a patient at my practice, go to stillmanmd.com to schedule a complimentary discovery call. Thank you for listening and welcome to today's episode. Do you feel like you're allergic to sugar? Over the years, many patients have come to me noticing that when they eat even small quantities of sugar, they'll have very frustrating symptoms at various different places around the body. Sometimes it migrates. They can't figure out what on earth is going on in their body. And eventually, many of them come to the conclusion that they are either allergic to sugar or that it is feeding something in their microbiome, specifically molds, fungi, and yeasts, that are causing these reactions. Many patients will also notice that they actually get outright yeast infections when this happens. And they'll come to me having to hop from doctor to doctor, and they're asking the question, what's wrong with me? And why do I seem to be dependent upon recurrent rounds of antifungals when everybody else can go out to dinner and have sweetened lemonade or go to the, picnic and have sweetened iced tea, and I can't even think about having those things without feeling like I'm going to fall apart or have a flare that lasts for days or weeks until I get some antifungals. So if that's you've ever thought those thoughts or felt those feelings, this video is for you. So how do I look at this? I look at this through the framework that I believe all disease emerges through, which is a process that we call repair deficit. Repair is not equal to what the body needs in order to deal with the damage it's taking or it's dealing with every single day, right? As that repair deficit gap widens over time, we end up seeing that different systems of the body, like the immune system, which is responsible for corralling and controlling molds and fungus and yeasts, they start to come offline. And while you're not necessarily running into the hospital with sepsis and overwhelming infections, your immune system just doesn't seem to work well. Often these patients wind up with autoimmune diseases or diagnoses, they'll wind up with allergies, and they just feel like something is deeply wrong with their body and they can't figure out what. So that's the process. I look at that through then three processes that I view as driving all disease, which are metabolic imbalances, toxic exposures and toxin accumulation, and then infectious processes or infections, pathogens. Now, the thing about pathogens, which is where this often winds up in people's minds, they think I have yeast infections, I've got mold infestation or whatever, is that I put it downstream from the metabolic imbalances and the toxic exposures and stresses. And the reason why is that what I found in practice was that when you nourished people properly and you reduced their total toxic burden and you reduced the stress in their life, a lot of the problems that seem to be associated with infections, whether you're talking about molds, fungi, yeasts, viruses, bacteria, parasites, would just resolve on their own. Recently, we even had a case in the practice where someone just started to take the digestive enzymes that we use, and they started to clear some very suspicious looking things that they believe are parasites spontaneously. I've heard that from a really wide range of things that weren't antiparasitics. So the way I view this is that if you're nourishing patients or corrects their metabolic imbalances and you're detoxifying them, that's parts 1 and 2 of our process. Then eventually, if you need to, you can deal with the infections using antifungals or antiparasitics or whatever other anti-infectives you want, but you often don't need to. So my process, my approach to this problem in the practice is, let's figure out what we need to nourish these patients with. They almost always have what I call burnout patterns on hair tissue mineral analysis. They have severe deficiencies of things like zinc, manganese, B vitamins, and so on and so forth. When you start to give them these nutrients back, they often see very profound changes in how they feel and how they function, which is very gratifying for us as a team. What they often notice is that it takes months and months for their sensitivities to things like sugar and other foods. Like, for example, many of them will notice they're allergic or they react or they have flares when they, say, drink beer or have, bread that's been leavened with yeast, etc. They'll notice that it takes longer for those reactions to resolve. Now, there's many other things that we can do that we use in the practice in order to help people get there faster. But overwhelmingly, what I've noticed is if you just focus on the nutrition and you focus on getting rid of toxins with things like Dr. Stillman's detox powder, then you don't need to use as many things to control microbes. And when you do, you get to use lower doses and you use them less frequently. So I hope this video is helpful to those of you who are struggling with this. This is our approach to the practice, what we see working in our patients. I recommend that people check out what we call the 14-day reset. These are the critical habits that we share with every patient in the practice for many different reasons. A lot of what I just packed into this video, a lot of what we see working for these cases is in the 14-day reset, which is why we start everyone there. Click the link below, check it out. I encourage you to try it. Thanks for watching. Take care and have a great day.